We're here with Jason Katz, principal at Toolshed Group company in the United States. And we'll be interviewing about United States and Donald Trump presidency. So my first question is, how do you see the election results?
The election results in my country were rather chaotic. No one thought that Donald Trump would win. Most political pundits, most pollsters believed that Hillary Clinton would be the president, so it was quite a surprise to see that Donald Trump is now the president-elect.
Yeah. So, according to media, there were a lot of protests in the US after Trump won. And also, many US citizens, and not only citizens, but also US celebrities, Hollywood celebrities, claimed that they would migrate to Canada or New Zealand. How do you think, is it serious or just blusters?
I think that a significant segment of America is genuinely upset. However, the celebrities that said that they would move to Canada or move to the UK, I don't take that seriously, and I certainly haven't heard of anybody moving. But that said, the popular vote of the country was split half and half. The popular vote, while important, is not the deciding factor in American elections. The deciding factor is the Electoral College, because the United States is not a direct democracy. It's a representative democracy. That is our particular system of government, and in that system of government, Donald Trump won with quite a few more votes than Hillary Clinton did. And again, as far as the population, the protesters, they're mostly very young. They're college students. College students tend to be much more liberal. College students tend to act out, get angry. But in addition to those, I think that there is a significant portion of the population that is genuinely and upset, and not just from an emotional standpoint, but from an intellectual standpoint. That said, there is a more significant part of the population who voted for Donald Trump, who believe that he should be president, and thus he is.
What do you think about Trump's attitude to Muslims, and about his immigration policies?
Well, those are two very good questions, and they're separate questions. Trump was and has been very, and I believe still is, very concerned about illegal immigration to the United States, and he's focused on our southern border in terms of immigration, illegal immigration of Mexicans, Central Americans, and some South Americans. Those views have some validity. However, from my perspective, I think that a policy of immigration reform is better. Illegal immigrants support the U.S. economy to a very, very great extent. It's not American citizens who are picking our fruit, for instance, in California. They're doing work that most Americans don't want to do. So I personally believe that we need to find a way for them to work legally in the United States. The Muslim issue is another issue. It's a disturbing issue. Donald Trump is a bit of a maverick. I believe he is more of a person that speaks and then thinks after. He becomes emotional about an issue, speaks out on it, and then thinks better of what he said after he said it. It's not the greatest way for a politician to function, but that's who our new president is. I certainly hope that he does not embark upon a policy of registering Muslims. I think that's un-American. I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to our democracy. I think that he is, or I believe that he's more concerned with immigrants coming into the United States from whatever country and by whatever means, you know, an airplane or walking across the border or a boat, that haven't been checked by the authorities, and thus preventing terrorists from coming into the nation. I think that his remarks vis-a-vis Muslims, his remarks vis-a-vis registration was more a terrorist issue than it was an immigration issue.
Yeah. Probably something that interests the entire world right now is which kind of relations Trump going to build with Russia and China. Just tell me your viewpoint on this.
Well, you know, Trump is an interesting man. He's not a politician. He's not a diplomat. I mean, his experience is wholly in the business world. So many issues he sees as a zero-sum gain. Either I profit or I lose, or you know, we come to some sort of agreement of profit sharing. I believe that Trump foreign policy, certainly unlike his immediate predecessor, but certainly unlike many of his predecessors, is going to be much less about American ethics applied to the rest of the world. I think it's going to be much less of American ideology vis-a-vis the rest of the world. It's going to be national interest-based foreign policy. If it's good for the United States, they move forward. In terms of China, I think he's going to play a much harder game with China. How hard that is hard to say at this point, but I think the Chinese are going to be punished under a Trump administration for their cyber warfare, for their sort of, we call it in America, monkeying with their economy, devaluing their currency to make their products more attractive in relation to American products. I don't think he's going to, I think he's going to do all he can to guard against that. His foreign policy to the rest of the world, again, I think is going to be a national interest-based policy. I also think it'll be much more of a geopolitical policy, even perhaps a realpolitik policy. Our last 8 years, we've had arguably no foreign policy, but what little foreign policy the United States had was to bully and beat up on our friends, or alternately ignore them. For instance, in terms of the UK, in terms of Israel, two of the United States' closest friends, we beat up on them for 8 years under the administration coming to an end. Alternately, our friends like Azerbaijan, we completely ignored them. And in favor of embracing our friends and paying attention to our friends, we embraced our enemies. We went all out to embrace our enemies, including Russia, including Iran. And I don't think that's necessarily a good foreign policy.
You mentioned Azerbaijan. As you know, yesterday Donald Trump and President of Azerbaijan Republic Ilham Aliyev had a phone conversation. So from your viewpoint, how the future relations between Azerbaijan and the United States will be during Trump presidency?
Well, again, it's hard to say, because the government of an administration of Donald Trump is still in the making. It's still being developed in terms of personnel policy. The telephone call between President Aliyev and President-elect Trump is certainly a good sign. All leaders from the world call to congratulate a new American president. So I I don't find that unusual. Vis-a-vis U.S. foreign policy under Trump, vis-a-vis Azerbaijan specifically, I see a difference. I have some close relationships on the Trump transition team, and I'm hearing about a foreign policy that's going to be much more robust. Donald Trump is, from what I hear, Donald Trump is interested in solving problems. You know, the Nagorno-Karabakh frozen conflict is an issue, and it's become more of an issue. I mean, if anything, the April war showed us that the two countries can go to war, and that there's a chance that it could expand into a regional war. It could involve Russia, it could involve Turkey, and you know, that's a dangerous thought to anybody that practices foreign policy in the United States.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Jason. It was a pleasure to conduct an interview with you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Anytime.